We will be getting cyber attacked. We will be getting hit with missile strikes.
The key question, would Vladimir Putin use a nuclear weapon?
Who else is coming?
We'll now have to decide, is Putin bluffing or not?
Welcome to Tactical Truths, the go-to series for military news, tactical analysis, and frontline stories that matter. Before we get started, I need your help. 73% of you who watch regularly haven't subscribed yet. If you like what we do, hit that subscribe button, it's free, and helps us make this show better for you every single week. I'm Phil Campion, former UK SAS, and this is Tactical Truths. Right, let's get serious. Could Vladimir Putin genuinely drop a nuke on London? Russia's ramped up threats, rewritten nuclear rules, and let's face it, things in the Ukraine aren't exactly calming down. With America wavering on continued support, we've got to talk openly about what might happen if things escalate further. Strap in, because today we're hitting this tough question head on. Would Putin genuinely nuke London?
In the city of Dnipro last night, the missiles rained down. Multiple streams that kept on coming.
Scary old stuff, that, innit? Scary old stuff.
But these weren't ordinary missiles, and the attack has taken the conflict to a whole new level. In a televised address,
He looks so calm about it, doesn't he? He looks like not a care in the world.
Vladimir Putin confirmed Russia had fired a new hypersonic medium-range ballistic missile.
Right, okay. Hypersonic medium-range ballistic missile. A serious bit of kit.
A response to what he called escalation from the West. At first, Moscow wouldn't comment on the reports it had fired a new missile.
But then, later on, when he looked at the evidence and all the footage that was coming out, he couldn't deny it. That's where we're going with this one, isn't it?
Да. Алло.
Its foreign ministry spokeswoman was interrupted mid-briefing.
Do what you're told. Go on.
By a caller who could be heard telling her to stay quiet.
Imagine doing this. Is how much he don't care. On live television, all right, he's had somebody phone up one of his senior politicians and tell her, shut your mouth. Shut it. Shut it. Shut it.
But the Kremlin is silent no longer, even threatening a similar attack on any country whose weapons are being fired on Russia.
There you go. So it wasn't that he was just going to keep his mouth shut about it. He was thinking about how he could best use the PR from it, if there is any PR to be had from dropping bombs on people. But there obviously is, because that's what he's just done.
That includes the UK.
And, you know, his warning here is stark. Keep escalating it. Go on, I dare you, because I'll do some of this around Europe. And we're not away from that. We're not out of that bracket. We're in it, in fact.
Putin has been threatening tactical nuclear attack in Ukraine almost since the day that he invaded. So
there you go. This is a serious fella here. This geezer here knows all about what we're talking about, because he is, hang on a minute, Colonel Hamish de Breton Gordon. He's got one of those double-barreled names. And he is the CBRN commander, which is basically the chemical, biological and radiological and nuclear commander. So he should know what he's on about. So we'll have a quick listen to what he's got to say.
In a way, I think his crying wolf, that idea has now gone, because, he's threatened it so much and nothing has happened. However,
crying wolf. That's interesting. An interesting take on that, because although he's crying wolf, some might argue that, yes, he has cried wolf. No, he hasn't ever done anything. But is there still a possibility that he could?
With the Americans out of the game, one could, would, if Russia decided to drop a tactical nuclear weapon in not just Ukraine, but say in Poland or somewhere like that, how would Britain and France react? Are we going to fire a strategic nuclear weapon at Moscow? I would suggest we probably wouldn't. And I think that's the assumption that Putin probably made, which is why it makes it dangerous.
So is Putin calling the bluff? Is that what he's doing? Let's have a look at it another way. Would a tactical weapon strike, a tactical nuclear weapon strike somewhere, drag the Americans back in? Because that would probably be, from my point of view, Putin's worst fear. It's all right, the Americans might have gone quiet for now, but if he ups his game to a stupid level, well, then he'll get some stupid prizes back, won't he?
Hello and welcome to Frontline for Times Radio. I'm Louis Sykes. Today we're joined by Hamish de Breton-Gordon.
This is Louis Sykes. Let's see what Louis Sykes has got to say, shall we?
A former British Army officer, NATO commander and military analyst who is on the show regularly. Hamish, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks very much for having me.
More from
Should we
Hamish.
ever have had any faith in President Putin's promise of an Easter ceasefire?
No, I don't think we should. Ceasefires have come and gone over the last few months, and although initially the Russians and Putin have been very positive, actually when it comes down to deeds rather than words, that they have failed.
All right, let's fast forward this a bit, because I only really want to know: is he going to drop a nuke on London? That's what we're asking about in this show, isn't it? So all this sort of stuff is just battering and forwards bullshit, really. So let's cut the bullshit out, shall we? Right now, we'll cut straight to the man himself and see what he's got to say, shall we?
Facilities of those countries that allow their weapons to be used against our facilities. And in the event of an escalation of aggressive actions, we will respond decisively and reciprocally.
Problem is, with a nuclear weapon, it don't just hit the site, does it? It then drifts chemicals and there's an overspill of all sorts of shite coming out of it, which is going to affect everybody, isn't there? So there's no such thing as, we just pinpointed that with this because there's going to be a radiation hazard for a start for probably about 20 years, isn't there?
This was apparently the provocation. Ukrainian strikes on Russia's Kursk region using British Storm Shadow missiles. That's after other assaults from Kiev involving American missiles. In an interview with Sky's Mark Austin,
Okay, Storm Shadow missiles, but they're not nuclear, are they?
an accusation from Russia's ambassador to the UK.
Britain and UK is now directly involved in this war because this fighting cannot happen without without NATO staff, British staff as well.
But you are using
plans.
Chinese dual-use technology. You're using it.
So basically, he's accusing our people of pulling the trigger, not just supplying the gear, but now he's saying this couldn't happen unless your people were pulling the trigger. That's what I'm reading from this.
Iranian missiles. You're using Iranian drones. You're using North Korean troops. So are you saying all those countries are now directly involved too?
On that subject, I can say easily that we have plenty of mercenaries from different countries that are fighting right now.
Again, we're skirting about here, aren't we? We know what we know this, that, and the other, but this is not answering our real question here, is it? So, once again, fast forward.
Line is now less stable than at
Yeah, this is Defence Secretary John Healey. See what he's got to say, shall we?
any time since the early days of the full-scale Russian invasion in February 22. And we've seen in recent weeks a very clear escalation from Putin and his forces.
A clear escalation, yes, we've seen that, yes. Does it mean he's going to start dropping nukes on London? That's my question, isn't it?
For now, Ukraine's allies are still calling the Kremlin's bluff, but the threats keep on coming.
There's a lot of bluff calling and a lot of threats been thrown around here, and that is clear to everybody, isn't it?
Ivor Bennett, Sky News, Moscow.
Ударе по России вообще на Британских островах, похоже, заговариваются.
There you go. This is what they're saying in Russia on Russian television. So they're sort of like they'll be doing the opposite of what I'm doing. They're going, "Are we really going to nuke London?" Right, that's what they're doing, isn't it?
Зачем грозить ядерным оружием бескрайней России, сидя...
Why do they threaten Russia with nuclear weapons? Well, to my knowledge, we haven't actually threatened them with nuclear weapons at all. So a little bit of spin on there, isn't there? A little bit of sort of hamming it up a bit, isn't it? Never let the truth stand in the way of a good story, my friend.
на, в общем-то, маленьком острове. Остров
Only a small island, but you don't have to be a big island to lob big guns.
столь мал, что лишь одной ракеты «Сармат» достаточно, чтобы
Oh, one Samurai missile's enough. This guy's talking out of his hoop, isn't he?
его утопить раз и навсегда. Все уже подсчитано.
The lovely little graphic of England just going, boom, followed by the rest of Britain, boom.
Раз и навсегда.
Everything's already been calculated. I'm sure it has by him in his own little world.
Зачем заигрываться? Другой вариант – погрузить Британию в морскую пучину российский подводный робот-беспилотник «Посейдон». Он приближается к цели на километровой глубине со скоростью 200 км в час.
He's now telling us what their capabilities are. You're a gem, you are.
Нет никакого способа
I'll tell you what, people say Putin's bad. I'm glad this chap's not in charge.
остановить этот подводный дрон. Боеголовка на нем мощностью
There's no way to stop this underwater drone, and he would know, because he's obviously an expert.
до 100 мегатонн. Взрыв этой термоядерной торпеды у берегов Британии поднимет гигантскую волну, цунами высотой до 500 метров. Такой водяной шквал является еще и носителем экстремальных
Okay, if you've got your surfboard out in Cornwall, you might like this one. This wave also carries an extreme dose of radiation, I'm sure it does.
доз радиации.
We'll all be walking around like we was on the Ready Brek advert, for those of you that remember that.
Пройдя над Британскими островами,
And once again, he's wiped us out.
он превратит то, что от них, может быть, еще и останется, в радиоактивную пустыню, надолго непригодную хоть для чего.
We're still none the wiser, are we, as to whether or not Putin would actually drop a nuke in the UK? I'm leaning on the no here. I'm leaning on the no. That's my personal swell. There's a lot of saber rattling. There's a lot of this. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of the other. You know, an escalation in the situation that we're in now could mean one thing, but an escalation could also mean another. And when I say that, it's, you know, the Americans might have stood off a little bit. I'm sure they'd stand back in again if it got to stupid levels. So, my take on the question that I asked at the very beginning of this is Putin actually going to nuke the UK? I don't think so. Not anytime soon. And if you look at all the evidence, there's a lot of saber rattling. Most of the absolute shite comes from the mainstream media on both sides of the pond, you know what I mean? The Russians being extremely good at it. I mean, that was a very well put together video of how they're going to completely crush, destroy, beat, maim and cripple the whole of the UK in one effort and leave only the surfers happy with the biggest wave they've ever seen. I'm sure we're going to look at this subject again, but for now, that's me done. I'm out of here. I can't take any more.